Welcome back to Networking Unleashed, Building Profitable Connections, the show where we explore the strategies, mindsets, and conversations that drive real results in business and life through the power of connection. Today's guest is a true authority when it comes to elevating your presence in the professional world. He specializes in helping individuals build credibility, lead with confidence, and craft personal brands that don't just stand out, they lead to opportunities. Whether you're climbing up the corporate ladder, building a business, or just getting started in your career, the insights you'll hear today are going to give you a serious edge in how you connect and influence. So get ready to take notes because we're diving deep into what really takes it to be seen, heard, and respected in any room you walk into. I want to introduce to you today Mitchell Levy, and he is, I would say, an authority on networking. It may sound familiar to most of you because I feel that we have a synergy with this. But Mitchell, le- welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about your background.
Michael, thanks for having me. And as I'll take it to the next level, it's not just for individuals, but I also spend a lot of time with corporations. But background wise, the best way to say it, I've been in Silicon Valley for 38 years, happily married for 36, have a 26-year-old I'm excited about. Now I'm going to say this is stuff. So I'll tell you the important stuff afterwards, but this is stuff. I've sat on the board of a NASDAQ firm. As a book publisher, we've published over 750 books. I've written 65, two TEDx's, one commencement speech. And short answer is I've done many of the things in life, or actually all of my bucket list item things. And now I'm here to be of service. And what really got me to where I am now is between 2019 and 2020, I went on a Napoleon Hill journey. And that journey was to interview 500 thought leaders on what the concept of credibility is. And that helped really transform who I am and how I show up today.
Very good. Like I said before, I'm super excited just to speak with you. But let's start with the questions that I came up with. All right. So, how do credibility and trust influence someone's ability to build a powerful professional network?
So I will, for those who are watching, I will share an image on the background as I'm speaking. Credibility is the quality in which one is trusted, known, and liked. And so the most important thing, and I know on your website you do the standard one, which is where I started, know, like, trust. Problem is, know, like, trust was relevant when in the old days you'd go into a town on your horse, you'd go into the local saloon, and there are two blacksmiths, and you go to the barkeep, hey, what's the best blacksmith for me? And they go, not only are there two that you know, but there's a third over here, that person would be better. In the old days where there wasn't the internet, there wasn't AI, you didn't know who was who. No meant I need to know where that person is or what they do. Today, what happens is you have instantaneous access to services around the world. And so the most important thing that needs to happen is they need to trust you. And how does trust get developed? Technically, it is, if we think about a LinkedIn profile, we think about a website, it happens in the first 3 to 5 seconds, right? So credibility at first is you go to a website and you need to trust. Are you ready? You need to trust that you want to spend the next 30 seconds getting to know this person a little bit better. As
Okay.
you get to know the person a little bit better, then you get to say, would I like working with this person? Do I trust they'll do the job the way I want them to do? And after that first, the 5 seconds up front, the next 30 seconds, now you might say to yourself, hey, I'm willing to spend a couple minutes really learning who this person is. So trust is, if you don't get trust immediately, you're completely losing the opportunity to even be seen. So I know credibility, and you won't even be seen by your prospects.
Very good. And I see what's happening with the know and trust, which is I speak about often, but trust, know, and like, you just turned it around. But I like what you did with the authenticity, the servant leadership, because if anybody who's been listening to me knows that networking starts with a servant's heart, and you always look to give instead of receive. So all of this plays right into the hands of my networking. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Um,
Thank you.
what are the key traits of a leader that make them an effective networker?
I could almost go as far. I'm going to do my cheat sheet if you don't mind. So I'll almost go
No.
as far as to say when I meet any leader and I'm focused on the trust area, of all the four elements, coachability, authenticity, integrity, vulnerability, I'm looking for all of them. But what really pops first is the person coachable, right? And you can tell almost immediately if somebody is coachable or not. You can ask them a silly question like, hey, what restaurant do you like most? I went there, I didn't like it. How do they respond? The second most important thing, which is probably as important as what you mentioned before, are they a servant leader? As you get to know somebody, do they have the intent and commitment to do the right thing? We'll come back to the fact that the value integrity is the only value of 10 that's listed twice. But really, are they a servant leader? And then, the interesting part as you listen to them speak, as you get to decide if you like somebody, you could decide, I like both of them. One is share the stage. So for a leader, when they speak, do they use the names of their employees or other people? Do they share cred dust? And do they show respect? And to me, if I'm going to pick those just four simple things: coachable, servant leader, they show respect, and they share other people's cred dust.
Okay. Okay. It's very good. And that's, again, it's a lot of things that I speak about. So what you're speaking about is close and near and dear to my heart.
Nice.
So again,
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that when I was looking at you and what you do and how you show up.
Yeah, okay, good. How does personal branding play into first impressions during networking events or introductions?
Personal branding is such a broad term, right? When we're talking about introductions, you're talking about physical introductions or online introductions?
Physical
Physical.
introductions.
Okay, perfect. So here's where it gets really interesting, where you could almost call it personal branding, but what I might actually say is, are you showing respect? So let's focus on the likability piece of it. So when you're walking up to somebody, are you walking with a frown? Or are you walking with a smile? When you're walking up to somebody, are you dressed appropriately? And technically, what mom always told me, slightly better than everyone else in the room, not slightly worse than everyone else in the room. And when you are introduced by somebody else, are you showing them the respect? Michael, if you came to me and introduced me to somebody, you might go, or if I was going to introduce you, I would walk up, I'd bring you with me, I'd introduce you to the person, and I'd say, hey, so and so, you should meet Michael. Now, Michael, by the way, this person is really good at ABC. And then when I expressed you, I would say something like, what's really interesting, you like me and the stuff I do. Well, if you like me, you'll like Michael, because Michael Forman focuses on the same sort of things. He just has a different approach to it. So why don't you guys talk and let me know how it goes? Right. So notice my voice raised when I share that because I wanted to show excitement. So showing respect and paying cred dust are the things that you can do most, assuming you have dressed the part and just to be clear, you have to be 100% present. Now, let me add one element to that. You are never going to a network event to sell you or a product, ever, period. Done,
Right.
right? So
Right.
if you've done a good job of getting somebody interested in you and wanting to learn more, when they ask you about your expertise and what they could buy from you, your response should always be, are you ready? Listen, I am so excited, and I'd want you to introduce you to meet other people here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to keep you in mind as I go around and network with others. But why don't we put time on the calendar? And during that time, we will spend more energy focused on your particular needs. But right now, you and I are focused on meeting other people. Is that okay with you? That would be the best way when somebody says that to you. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. And I want to go back to when I'm first meeting the person, when you're introducing me. Of course, your body language speaks volumes. It's how you keep yourself. When you say dress just a little bit above them, so if they're in just a shirt and slacks, you should be wearing a blazer shirt and slacks. If they're wearing a blazer shirt and slacks, you wear a tie blazer shirt and slacks. It's always one step above. But the body language, it speaks volumes. When you shake somebody's hand, right? It's not a dead fish. It's not a dead fish. You shake it firmly. You look them square in the eye. All of this tells a story in the few seconds you have when you're meeting them, and they will react to it a lot more, a lot better than if you didn't do everything.
Thank you
But
for filling the blank. Thank you for filling in the blank. Appreciate that. Yes, agreed. 100%.
yeah, it's the same. Okay. Can you share a moment when your credibility opened a door that skills or experience alone couldn't?
Ooh, give me a, there's so many different areas and different approaches. Can you fill in that concept a little bit more in terms of what you might be looking for? And it's a
Well,
great
okay.
question.
But usually your experience can open a door for you. But I'm talking about a moment that you're they're not looking at your experience, but they're looking at just your credibility. In other words, they said, "Oh, that's Mitchell. Oh, he's an author and he's this or XYZ." And that's the person who I'm being introduced to because I
Mm.
don't know any of your experience. I only know what is written about you or what you've done.
It's funny. I was at a startup event yesterday, and when somebody introduced me, they said, "Yeah, Mitchell, he's actually written a couple books." And the person on the other side was like, "Ooh." And then she goes, "How many did you write?" And I go, 65. And she goes, "Oh." It was really an interesting, I think. I think it's important where your presence is that level of trust where people first get to see you. Agreed with you. The right firm handshake, the look in the eyes, the attentiveness, the presentness. And then the question has to happen really quickly in the mind of the person who you're meeting. Is it worthwhile for me to spend time with this person? Right. And so what I often will do, if somebody doesn't know me, I might say a couple things, and it happens all the time, right? It's if I need to know who they are first, so I never will start with I'm blah, 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 right? I like the stuff I shared before. I don't really, I don't ever do that. What if I'm at a startup event, I can assume, and if I could see their name badge or a CEO of a startup, I'm like, oh, tell me about your company. I'd love to hear a little bit more. Now, what's really interesting is one of the areas I have specific expertise is being able to help any company or any individual articulate in less than 10 words where they're executing on their purpose. And so when I went to this networking event, I met with 10 CEOs. I wanted to get back involved and feel comfortable about stuff other than I had a badge. By the way, how that badge helped me get immediate credibility, it said the word investor on it. Of all the things I could have put, that was the thing that was most interesting to that audience. So that's to answer your question, that's immediate credibility. Investor, huh? I got to talk to this person. But when I'd asked them who they were, in 10 out of 10 times, none of them had clarity. Right? It just because what happens when you're the CEO of a company or you're networking an event, you're so excited about you, you want to spew out all the important things about who you are. So oftentimes I'd listen, and depending on who they are, if I felt like they were coachable, I would say something like, I believe that there's something that's so powerful that if you're able to do this, people will listen to you more. Stop. That's interesting. Wait, all right, what would that be? If you were able to articulate the playground you play in less than 10 words, that would now allow people to jump right in and get excited about you. It would give you a compass of who you are and how you show up. And they go, oh, cool. Now, depending on how much time I had with them, I might actually say, if you want, we could do it now. Because I've already spent enough time with them. I know they're open, they could do it. Or other times I might go, you know what? I would love to do this with you. I've done this now over 1,000 times. Credibility point. I've now done this over 1,000 times. I can guarantee that I give that. I normally charge for this, but I would love to give this to you because I really like you. Would you mind if we put time on the calendar? I'll send you my calendar link. Right. So it's all the techniques that say, I'm a servant leader. I want to be of value. This is something that's of value because I normally charge for it. And I want to help you be more successful. Would you mind? And those are going back to a couple of your questions. At the end of the day, it's what can you say that somebody says, oh, this is worthwhile listening to this person. And that's really what a credibility piece does, whether it's a book or a TEDx or whenever you're speaking at an event, you are by definition given that incremental credibility, whether you deserve it or not, because you're one of these speakers.
Would you say that's an exponential part of your elevator pitch, your elevator speech? Because the whole idea of the elevator speech is to get the person's attention. It's what you're saying is that you can get the person to articulate what they do in 10 words. That's what that speech, that beginning note, because what I do is I tell them, look, you should have your 30-second elevator speech. That's what everybody professes. I don't profess that. I
Oh,
say,
good,
yeah, I really don't. You should be able to say what you have to say in 5 seconds.
which is
Okay.
what I do.
And then just see, and then hopefully, because the only thing you're looking for is a response. And positive or negative, you can really tell, but that's all you're looking for. You're looking to draw him into the conversation so that you can then further expand. So that's my take on the elevator speech. I don't profess it, I don't teach it, but I have that few seconds. I have my elevator pitch. Okay. If I go to a BNI or if I go to a chamber meeting or something, I have to do that pitch. And then I
You
very
do, but I'm
quickly
going to say, Michael, you do, but you don't. But try it. Tell me, I'm curious, what would be your pitch? Your 30-second pitch.
I help professionals network and communicate more effectively and efficiently, thus creating more profits.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to say, if you don't mind, I'm going to
Yeah.
take what you said, but take it to a whole new level.
All right.
Let me just
I'll take
ask a
it.
question first.
Sure.
Does the elevator speech come from the head or the heart?
It should come from the heart.
But does the elevator speech come from the head or the heart?
The elevator speech, as it is, comes from the head.
So, how could somebody possibly get to know and trust you if you're speaking from your head? For anyone who's listening and watching, I would encourage you, whatever you've learned about the elevator speech, put it on a piece of paper, crumple it up, burn it, and make sure you throw it out. You should never, ever give a 30-second elevator pitch, period.
That's why I
Right.
said I only use like the first 5 seconds. It's just enough to get the person's attention because I feel that an elevator speech, an elevator pitch, it sounds very robotic, very practiced, very like they don't care. They're just telling you what it is because that's what they're taught to do. And they're taught to do it from their head instead of their heart. But that's me. That's what I teach. And I think we teach the same thing, but I think you're a little bit better than I am.
Let me tell you why. Oh, it's not better or worse. That's irrelevant, right? It's if we're adding value as servant leaders to others, not better or worse, right? It's what I've recognized that what I do, I'm going to give you a name for it. It's called a CPOP, your customer point of possibilities. What I do is I allow somebody in less than 10 words to articulate their CPOP. It's the playground they play in, it's the compass they use for making decisions of, hey, is this a good networking event? Is this a good website? Is this a good LinkedIn profile? It is the thing that what's really cool about having a CPOP, Michael, if you share the CPOP, what's really cool is the person who's listening is one of three people. They are either a referral partner, they are either a prospect, or they're either somebody who doesn't give a shit. Now, it doesn't mean they don't care about you as a human. It just means they don't care about the playground you play in. So if you share your CPOP, and I'll share mine, and if you want, we can create yours. If you share your CPOP with somebody, the most natural thing, if they're one or two, if they're referral partner or prospect, is tell me more. Now, what's interesting about a CPOP is people are not used to hearing it because what I'm going to encourage you to teach your people, never say, I help, I serve. Because what happens immediately is people go, ugh. Now, what you could do instead, because they feel like you might be selling, oh, that's one of those, no interest, right? What you could do instead is do a hook up front. The hook is there's a group of clients I love working with, or there's a set of professionals that really benefit from what I do. But then pause. So for me, the way I'd say it, I have two CPOPs. I'm going to give the one that's appropriate for your audience. There's a group of professionals I add so much value to. Pause. Business owners pursuing abundance with LinkedIn. 6 words. So, Michael, the most natural thing there is, Mitchell, what do you mean? Tell me more. So now I'm going to say something in less than a minute, but I'm going to say it off the top of my head based on our previous conversation. I'm not going to memorize, like every time I say it, it's different because it's coming from my heart. It's not coming from my head. Michael, what I actually do, I've been part of LinkedIn since before LinkedIn was making money. I was paid by Reid Hoffman and Konstantin Gerlich to actually write and publish LinkedIn's first book. So what I do is I help people use the 20% of functionality that will deliver 80% of value. Just enough where if they're really interested, they might, oh, I'm interested, tell me more. Here's what I would do next. I have 7 habits of highly effective LinkedIn networking. Could we get time on the calendar? Or, by the way, I have an event next week. You could sign up for it. It's complimentary. Or can we get time on the calendar and we'll see if it's a good fit for you? Right. Now, let me tell you what I'm really doing. And this is where we're different because what you do is fascinating. What I'm going to say is you help people with C-popping. You're giving them the ideas and thoughts of how they can network more effectively. And then they have a book and a learning course where they could learn more. What I have figured out is the C-pop to me, it's a formula. And I can sit, like I said, any human, any company and give them the formula. Here's what's interesting. When I'm talking with somebody, they're going to feel so good about it. They're going to go, oh my God, that's me. Because we as humans, we vibrate at a frequency. And if you are a servant leader and you're living aligned with yourself, I'm going to just give you the words that will help you be in alignment. That's fantastic. I've done this now over 1,000 times. Here's what happens. The world is full of chaos. And in 90% of the times without incremental support, they are going to forget their CPOP in 2 hours to 2 weeks. It just it's just the way it works. So the world needs people like you and I that will help people once they learn how to network more effectively to stay in touch with how to do it. Or once they learn, in my case, what I'm doing with LinkedIn is I'm helping them play in the playground they say they want to play in, as opposed to the next nice shiny object comes by and they try to do something else.
Very good. First of all, I'm so glad that this is being recorded because there's no way I can write down enough notes I was listening so intently that I am going to play this video back about 10 times so I get it right. With that in mind, what advice would you give to someone trying to align their personal brand with the leadership roles that they aspire to?
I it's really hard for me these days not to actually, and I'm not trying to sell who I am. Oh, maybe I am. It is important for you to be able to articulate the playground you play in. And so the playground is typically defined in this way by this formula.
Mhm.
And I'll give you the secret formula. You okay if I share that?
Sure, absolutely.
So what you want to be able to do in one or two, or worst case, 3 words, who do you serve? In your case, it's professionals,
Mhm.
right? In my case, either business owners or when I put on my executive coaching hat, it's Inc. 5,000 CEOs, different audience, different CPOP. So who do you serve? Now, if you're in corporate and you're at a company today, hopefully you're at a company you love being at. If you don't love who you are and what you do at that company, it's time to move companies, right? And so who do you serve? And then from the perspective of who you serve as a servant leader, what is the pain point or pleasure point? 80% of the time, it's a pain point focused thing. In 20% of the time, it's okay to do the pleasure point. For instance, when I talk to CEOs, their egos are so big, I have to actually give the pleasure point one. And so, what's interesting as I was thinking about you, and to answer your question, it's it's important to be able to know the playground you're playing in and then share it at the right time with people when they ask you who you are. But it gives you this compass. When you have a compass, now what happens when opportunities come your way, you know what's a yes, what's a no. You know what's a maybe. You know it's so clear of the audience you serve and how you serve them that you should feel comfortable going above and beyond. That's what gets you the job. If you know how to play in your playground, I sat on the board of a public firm. The people that I wanted on the executive staff with the CEO were people who knew how to play in their functional roles because they weren't going to get direction from the CEO, at least they shouldn't. They should be telling the CEO what they need so they can accomplish the goals they were set out to do. And that's really so they knew how to play in the playground that they set up for themselves.
I like that. I like that a lot. Here's a question for you. What are some common mistakes professionals make that hurt their credibility while networking?
The most obvious, the easiest one is the one you've heard many times. You have one mouth and two ears,
Yeah,
and you're using them not you're not using them in the right proportions.
that's right.
The most important thing you can do when you're networking is ask a good question that encourages the other person to talk. Now, what's the
Stop
most
talking.
important thing to do next? Listen. Okay. Don't listen with the intent of when you could interrupt them, bad, and when you could say who you are, also bad. Just listen, add value, right?
That's
The
it.
most important thing, if somebody walks away liking you and trusting you because they spoke for 10 minutes and you spoke for a minute or 30 seconds, that just gives you the op. No, by the way, if somebody knew that each person should speak for 5 minutes and somebody took nine, that's probably not somebody you want to play with anyhow. But if you really focused on the other person, so that's the biggest mistake is not listening, talking too much, trying to highlight you in a networking event. It's if you're a servant leader, if you're really echoing concepts of credibility, you are there to be of service of somebody else. You are coachable. If they say something that changes who you are, you go, and kind of what you're doing today is, oh, that's really interesting. I'm going to listen to this a couple of times because I can't take notes fast enough. You're also spreading my cred dust. You're doing the types of things not because you're following a blueprint. You're doing it because you're a coachable, credible, vulnerable person who authentically wants to do better by their clients. So you have the intent and commitment to do the right thing. And as a result of being that person, you're just allowing yourself to be you. And you're doing it while you're recording on a podcast where people are many times very nervous, but you're just showing up as you. And if anyone is paying attention, I like this Michael guy. I mean, this was a good episode. I want Michael to help me. And that's what comes out when you listen to and watch something like this.
Yep. I firmly believe having the servant's heart when you go networking is paramount. As you're listening to that person and letting them speak, and I use something called form when I'm before I talk with them. It's family, occupation, recreation, and a message,
Mm,
right? So I have that in my head before I go and speak to them because I can speak to them about any of the above. But as they're speaking, and after they finished, you pause, very important, that pause, because you don't want to say the next thing that you wanted to say, but you're going to respond to what he said, he or she said. And you say, you know something? I like you. I like the way you do business. How can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for you? And I usually blows them away. He said, I don't even know what you do yet because I haven't said anything yet. But he talked or she talked for 5 minutes. And that's the whole process.
mm.
So I strongly believe that. And hopefully you use a little bit of that yourself.
Oh,
Um,
remind me, what was the R? I got the FOM, but I didn't get the R.
Recreation.
Recreation. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, because when you're going and you're sitting at somebody's desk, okay, and you're meeting this person for the first time, you have about 30 seconds to look around his office and see what he's got on the walls, on his desk, and everything he has. And one thing, here's a little trick for you. He's got pictures of his family on his desk. All right. Now watch and then look, how are the pictures positioned? Are they just to him so that only he can see him? Or are they facing outward for you to see? And if they're facing outward, then he's that much more proud of his family and he wants you to say something about his family, his children, his whatever. And that's a great way to start your conversation.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Great, great
Little, little,
suggestion. Yeah, yeah.
little tidbits, little tidbits. Okay. How can emerging leaders use networking to strengthen both their influence and their personal brand?
If you're networking as an emerging leader at a networking event where there aren't other people at your company, what you want to do exactly what you suggested. You want to get to know people where you can add value to them so they recognize who you are. You want to be able to, if you are writing something that you think would be relevant for them, you go, you know what? I'm spending a lot of time in this area. Do you mind if I send you an article I'm writing sometime next week when I'm done writing it? Or how about when I'm doing my podcast, every now and then I'm going to interview somebody who's a good fit. Do you mind if I send you that? Or maybe even send you a reel, real snippet from that might be of value. It's those are things that you do with people outside your company. If you're networking inside your company, which you absolutely should, what you're doing is you're actively looking for people who could be mentors of you or mentor you in some way at some point in time, right? And so what you're looking for is you're looking for, if you're thinking about the form that you just mentioned, if you're looking for things that are valuable that they first can relate to you because you've recognized it, and then second, you go, every now and then I've got this interesting question. And actually, I'm not even sure I'd ever, no, I wouldn't do it. I was going to say something and then I'd like, nope, too formal, too quick. All you want to do is be of service and be recognized when you first meet somebody. And at some point in time, if you think they could be a mentor to you, you want to build the relationship over time inside the company. You don't want to ever ask when you first meet somebody. It's a little bit too needy and it's not the right thing to do, but you want to be of service. So if they have an admin, you could ask the question of the admin, hey, what could I do that would be of value to your boss? And it's the same things you're doing, but if you're doing it for a company, you just have to follow a little bit different set of rules inside your company than you do outside the company.
Very good. Very good. And going to the secretary or assistant, asking them the best way to get to that person, that's gold. Because, first of all, I've done that for years, for 100 years. That's to me is sales 101. But it's all these items, all these things are forgotten. All of these things people don't do anymore. But I don't want to get into that because I can sit here for an hour and talk about that. What role does consistency in behavior, in behavior, message, and image play in long-term networking success?
So I did promise that I would tell you why
Here we go.
the value of integrity was listed twice. So doing the interviews, what came out were 10 values of credibility. And when I first created the 10 values, I couldn't tell you why integrity was there twice. It took a year before I really figured it out. And it took about 4.5 years before I could make the statement that I'm going to make a little bit later. What's interesting is about a year after putting this out there, what I realized is that the difference between the integrity that's associated with trust, that's your external integrity, that's who you say you are. But if somebody gets to know you, know the real you, the integrity there is your internal integrity, who you really are, who you really act as. And I want to make this fun statement I learned about 6 months ago. And as you ever go to a networking event and you're meeting somebody and then the hair in the back of your neck stands up, you've got this spidey sense there's something wrong.
Yeah.
I want to put words on that. It's simply they're saying one thing, their external integrity is saying one thing, but you know that they don't mean that when you look at their internal integrity. When there's incongruency between external and internal integrity, that's when your spidey sense pops up. So the word consistency, and I'll also add another C word, a couple C words I like. I love curious, but also the consistency, the C word commitment. When you're consistent and have commitment to focus on doing the right things by those that you serve, you over time are making sure there's alignment between your external and internal integrity. And if you don't have that alignment, that's an immediate when executive comes to me or is imposed on me, the first thing I have to see is, hey, are they coachable? If they're not coachable, I'll say no immediately. But then within the first conversation or two, I'm going to learn whether or not there's incongruency between their external and internal integrity. Depending on how bad that is, it's either coachable if they're coachable or not. And I'll make those decisions right then. And it's really important to, and it's hard sometimes. It's sometimes easy to do things that other people are doing, even though it's inconsistent with your values. But you got to own who you are and you got to show up in a credible way that people see you in a way that they're comfortable.
Yes, very much. That's good. And I like that with the spidey senses because I think everybody who has networked as much as we have, you walk into a room and you start talking with somebody and they start talking, and immediately that starts to flare up. You're like, nope, I'm going to make this as short as possible and just move on to the next person because I've gotten really to the point where I don't want to deal with that anymore. If you're just starting out, if you're a sales professional, you really do business with just about anybody that's going to buy your services. And I'm really at a point where I'm like, no, I remember I had a graphic design studio about 20 years ago, and I was taught a lesson from my mentor at the time. He said, look, Michael, you have to fire your client. It was just, I was like, but you can't do that. He's paying me a lot of money. Yeah, but your health is worth a lot more than that. You have to be happy at what you do and fire the client. And I did. And my profit margin went down, but I felt a lot better. So there was something to learn about that. Okay. How can someone with limited experience still build credibility and lead within their network?
It's a very open-ended question. So let me add a little bit of context around that. There are different forms of leadership, right? One of the best form of leadership that is very easy for anyone to do, regardless of title, is the leadership of taking notes and summarizing notes and forward and following through. Essentially, good project management. So, at any point in time, when a group of disparate people come together, being the person who will volunteer to take notes and distribute the notes and then recap the notes at the next meeting, that's the leader, whether or not they have the title or not. And so, it's if you have very limited experience, being that person and saying, listen, I have limited experience in this field, but what I can do really well is listen and take notes. Do you mind if I do that? And if you're showing your vulnerability, if you're showing that you authentically care, you have the intent and commitment, do the right thing, sometimes that leadership will actually be rewarded with true leadership. Who should run the project? The guy taking the notes. So that to me is an approach I would suggest that people take.
And let's bring this podcast full circle. And if someone wants to be remembered after a single conversation, what should they focus on projecting?
Servant leadership,
Okay.
that you are there to add value to the person you're with, and if possible, to be able to add value.
That's always my answer. That's always my answer. And I'm so glad that you said the very same thing.
Oh,
Mitchell, I can't begin to tell you how much I enjoyed this podcast. I can probably go on speaking with you for another 2 hours without even thinking about the time. But if somebody wanted to hire you or ask you a question or ask anything about you, how would they find you?
the best way, and this is something that many people make mistakes at, they'll start echoing off tons of ideas of how to reach somebody. So I'm going to give you one. It's my website. Go to mitchelllevy.com. That's three L's, mitchellllevy.com. And from there, you could see the types of programs I have, the things that I do. You could participate in either paid for or some complimentary resources. You could even book time on my calendar. So that's at mitchellllevy.com.
That's fantastic. And I enjoyed this so much, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Michael, me as well. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. Let me just read a few of our sponsors that we have. Struggling to reach success? Maybe it's time to quit. In Quit Your Way to Success by Rodney Davis, this reveals 27 steps to breaking bad habits that hold you back. This powerful book helps you rewire your mindset, take control of your actions, and turn setbacks into stepping stones. With real life examples, motivational quotes, and actionable lessons, especially for sales professionals, you'll gain the tools to quit what's stopping you and start winning. Transform your future today. So Quit Your Way to Success by Rodney Davis, available now on Amazon. And this is a nonprofit called Revved Up Kids. This is something I believe in wholeheartedly. Revved Up Kids is on a mission to protect children and teens from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. That's REVVEDUPKIDS.org. Well, that's a wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our special guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or my website, Michael. Remember, until next time, keep practicing, keep connecting, and keep building those relationships. This is Michael signing off. Take care and happy networking.